This morning, we will talk about the challenge beyond Olm. It will be presented by Braid here, and the talk is 50 minutes. You can ask questions at the end of the presentation and also live on our matrix room, Lynn Conway. And please put a little light bulb emoji on the question, and I will review them at the end of the talk. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending my talk, and I'm really happy to open the security and encryption room today. I will be talking about Olm and the beyond Olm and the challenges in implementing messaging layer security in Matrix. Who am I? Hi, my name is Braid, the one with the braid. I'm Matrix consultant and software architect. Working in Matrix client development. I did lots of stuff about OIDC, sliding sync, end-to-end encryption, and particularly in this talk we will be talking about cryptography. Apart from work, you can ask me about Unix, Flutter, ARM, and if you ever encounter to talk to me within the pause, feel free to talk to me about night trains. This talk will be split into basically 3 parts, because I would like to everyone, this is a basics talks. I will try to present the challenges in implementing MLS to everyone, even if people are not experts in cryptography. So in order to be able to understand the challenges in MLS, let's first have a look at Olm in detail. So the first part will be about how does Olm actually work, what are the relations between the keys, and how are messages in Matrix actually encrypted. Some wording. If we use end-to-end encrypted messaging in Matrix, we use Olm and Megolm. Olm is the algorithm used to encrypt and decrypt to device messages, whereas Megolm is the encryption algorithm to encrypt events in a matrix room with several participants. Olm is basically the secure channel we have for key sharing, whereas Megolm is what's used to actually deliver the keys Olm is used for key sharing, whereas Megolm uses the keys shared via Olm in order to actually encrypt and decrypt events in a room. When we're talking about Olm in Matrix, we have a bunch of different key types which have certain jobs they do, and let's have a look at the keys we have and what they do in encryption in Matrix. We have the device fingerprint keys, device identity keys, we have one-time keys, we have fallback keys, we have Megolm encryption keys, and we have Megolm signing keys. So that's basically the 6 primitives of keys we have in order to send end-to-end encrypted messages on Matrix using Olm. First key is the device fingerprint keys. That's basically the fingerprint identifying a device and signs like all the other keys for a device, and it's publicly shared across Matrix. Like if you go to the participants list in a room, you usually have a fingerprint of devices, and you can see, okay, this user has 25 devices or 45 if they work at Element for long enough, and they have a certain fingerprint you can check, and that's the device fingerprint keys. Device identity keys are the second part, identifying devices on device level. They are used to deviate shared secrets, signed using the fingerprint key, and again shared publicly as in means of some public key infrastructure. They could be rotated in future, in order to have better secrecy. We have the one-time keys. One-time keys are what's actually used to encrypt and decrypt messages we receive from to device messages, and each and every time someone sends you to device message, the key is rotated. They are one-time. You have hundreds and thousands of them. They are being created every time like you open your Matrix client and you have like 25,000 new messages because you joined Matrix HQ, you have a bunch of them being uploaded again. They are being used a single time, disposed afterwards, and they are used to establish Olm sessions. In opposite, like if you're offline long enough, we used to have these problems in Matrix for a long while. If the one-time keys were exhausted, then you can no longer encrypt for someone. So we have fallback keys, which are basically one-time keys, but if they are like used, they remain used until you're online the next time, so that in case you're offline for a long while, people are still able to encrypt messages to your device. We have the Megolm encryption keys, which is a random secret. They are used to derive AES keys, and after each message being sent, like you have forward secrecy. The hash of this key, along with the secret, derives the next key, so that like if we lose a key, you can't scroll back in the history. That's the basic idea of like forward secrecy. So yeah, future messages can be decrypted if you like know the key at a certain point, but you can't like grab past keys. Yeah, at the end you still have the Megolm signing key, which is used to, well, basically sign messages sent via Megolm. That's not exactly relevant in regards of how encryption works in Olm, but now you have like an overview of what the keys actually do, and maybe you have a rough idea how messages are actually being encrypted using Olm. Let's talk about MLS. That's actually the idea behind this talk. Let's talk about MLS in detail. So, what is MLS? MLS is short for Messaging Layer Security, which is an encryption standard used to encrypt messages in a digital way in groups. So yeah, let's have a look at it. MLS uses some very well-defined terminology in order to understand how encryption works in MLS, which is you have groups, you have epochs, you have members, you have key packages, you have group context, you have proposals and commits. So everything is a bit more clearly defined, but we will look at the difference at the end. So what does it mean? A group is a group of clients. A group is defined in MLS as a group of clients holding a common secret. And a group itself, again, consists of a sequence of epochs. So if people join a group and like are added to a group, or if keys are rotated, like you have a common secret, and as long as the common secret is the same amongst a group, like this is your group, and it consists of different epochs. An epoch is a snapshot of a group. You can imagine it like as long as Alice is in the room and she later leaves and is thereby removed from the cryptographic group, we are talking about a new epoch. So an epoch is basically a snapshot of the group where all participants who currently belong to the group have a common secret and can send messages to each other. They depend on their predecessor, but in opposite, like, yeah. So they are snapshots of the groups, and they are derived like from the previous epoch. A member, well, that's actually clear. It's a client included in a shared group state, and they have access to the group's secret. I explicitly say this because in terms of Matrix, a member can be something different. Like if you're a member of a room in Matrix, for example, it does not necessarily mean you actually can decrypt your events. Every one of you likely has ever received an unable to decrypt, and that's why, like in Matrix, you can have members who actually cannot decrypt events. In MLS, membership is defined via the capability of encrypting and decrypting messages for a group. So a member is someone who has the secret of a group. The next term is key package. A key package is like basically the signed business card of a client. If I have a device, it publishes a key package, and people know, okay, Alice's device has this and that key package, and if I want to add Alice's device to a group, I need to include this key package. So it's basically the public key is the cryptographic identity, consists of a hybrid public key encryption keys, and yeah, it's used, as mentioned, as a business card. It's used to introduce people. You hand out your business card, you use the key package to identify people, to invite them somewhere. So as you would write your phone number or your email address on the business card, or of course your matrix ID, a key package in MLS is basically what's used to introduce new members into a group. Next term is group context, which is the collected public state of a group. So if we introduce a new member into a group, we share them the group context, which is a bit equivalent to like sharing state of a group. In matrix terms, sharing like the state of the room, gathering information about who's participating, etc. And now we are coming to the differences or things which are slightly different from Olm compared to MLS. Like in MLS, we have proposals. That's a message sent to a group suggesting to add, update, or remove a member. For example, if I rotate my key package, like if I have a new device, if I want to kick someone from a group, I send a proposal to the group. I would like to propose to remove this key package from the group, or I would like to propose to add this key package to the group. After we have a bunch of proposals, or after someone accepts or rejects a proposal, we commit proposals. A commit is basically a message in MLS which implements a set of proposals. So once I have my 5 proposals, I invited Bob, I invited Alice, I kicked Trudy because she was like an evil hacker, as we all are, and then I accept these proposals to commit the changes, and I commit the changes, and once I commit a change, the group starts a new epoch, because we now have other members, and an epoch is defined by like the snapshot of a group where everyone has a common secret. So if I commit a change in an MLS group, I start a new epoch with the corresponding new members. MLS groups know like 3 different secrets basically, which is the commit secret, which is required to identify, to authorize, and to authorize commits, to say, okay, I'm actually allowed here to do this commit. We have the epoch secret, which is, as mentioned, rotated like once there are changes, if there are commits to the group membership. We have a new epoch secret, and at the end, like to actually send an end-to-end encrypted message to members of a group, we have the encryption secret. From the architecture, MLS basically has 2 components. It's actually simple, as long as we're talking about MLS as standalone and not in the matrix context. MLS actually has 2 services, which is an authentication service and the delivery service. Authentication service is a trusted service we use to authenticate presented credentials. So if I have, like, anyone could say and upload a key package to a server and say, this is the key package of Alice. But who knows if it's actually the key package of Alice. So the authentication service is actually the job to like verify presented credentials, whereas the delivery service, which is the other huge and actually the main component of MLS, is an basically untrusted drag and drop clipboard where you throw in messages and people grab these messages. Messages in MLS are, of course, all signed, so we can relate them cryptographically to identities. And so we basically have a bunch of group channels in a delivery service which are collecting like all the messages for a particular group, delivering them to the people subscribed to a group, so the members of a group. And we have the delivery service part, which does the PKI, where like people throw in their key packages and present their cryptographic identities in order to be able to be added to other groups. Yeah, so how does it look in detail? How does an MLS group, how is an MLS group created without talking about matrix? The creation is basically, the creation process is like Alice publishes a key package in the delivery service. someone grabs this key package and thinks, oh yeah, Alice, I always wanted to talk to her. So I grab the key package of Alice and propose it in a public message in a group. A public message in MLS terminology is a message which is not encrypted, so it's just, in matrix terms, it's a state event, but be careful with this term because state events are something slightly different when we're talking about MLS and matrix. After I proposed Alice, someone commits the key package into the group so that we have another public message. Alice is now a member of the group, and of course we now have a new epoch because someone was committed to a group, and after this commit was sent, we sent a welcome message to the new member of the group as a direct message, introducing the new group, sharing the group contacts, and like giving them everything they need to know in order to follow the group's events or messages. So now that you have a rough idea, I hope you have a rough idea of like how the lifetime of MLS works, let's talk about what's blocking Matrix from using MLS. I mean, MLS has been out there. It's a super fancy standard. It's industrial standard. It's IETF standard. But why don't we use MLS in Matrix? Why do we stick to Olm? So let's talk about MLS on Matrix. When we're talking about MLS on Matrix, the delivery service is basically, I didn't expect this slide here, but okay. The delivery service is basically a directory of key packages as we have it in Matrix right now. Like you upload your keys, and people use these keys later. We have it with the one-time keys. We have it with all the identity keys, and this process can be actually used for key packages again. So people publish their key packages on the home server in a kind of directory, in a PKI, with all the key packages. And the second part is what we call rooms in Matrix, which is basically a group channel of MLS. So a place where all the messages related to a group, the public messages and the private messages, so the unencrypted and the encrypted messages of an MLS group are just being stored in, are being thrown in, and at the end the clients download them and check if everything is all right and do whatever is written in there. But that's already a huge difference. Like in MLS, we do not trust the service very much. Like, we have lots of messages there, but they are all evaluated by the client. So all the membership changes, they're being processed on the client side. There's not much the server actually does for us. So it's really a very stupid data store of MLS messages. And the authentication service, again, is basically the off-channel way to verify the cryptographic identities of people. If I upload a key package, I later need to be able to prove I'm actually the person, like me, Braid, is actually the one who published the key package. So this is what you would roughly relate to key verification in Matrix, so what you do with the emoji stuff. But yeah, let's look at what's blocking MLS. Like this is easy. That works. So that's only a couple of patches on your favorite home server. Let's look at the MLS specification. An excerpt. A group has a single linear sequence of epochs. Has every one of you ever had a home server downtime? Who of you is at matrix.org? No one? Okay. So you didn't have that many home server outages. But yeah, in Matrix, a home server can be offline for a while, and it can resume. And even more, Matrix supports partition. We have federation and we have partition. If we use MLS, we have the basic problem that if I have 3 home servers talking with each other, that's the first part, that's the federation problem. We expect a linear sequence of epochs, but what if the federation is slow? If Alice's home server invites Bob, whereas Clark's home server already invited someone else, then we have like the order of epochs is unclear. That's a bit contradicting to MLS idea of having a linear sequence where like we have one server, we have one hub in terms of past proposers of MLS and matrix, like we have one central delivery service delivering and collecting the epochs, collecting the state, collecting the messages belonging to a group. Yeah, the second problem is partition. It's a feature of matrix that we can easily split the network into different fragments. We can have 5 home servers which are being cut off from each other for a while, so that we have 2 home servers still federating with each other, whereas we have 3 other ones separated from the 2 home servers, which are also still federating. So in matrix, we can fork and rejoin. It's a feature of matrix that we can always like split the network however we like and rejoin it. And that's difficult with the idea of having a linear sequence where everyone like has the same view on the group. Second excerpt from the MLS specification. We generally assume that each participant maintains a complete and up-to-date view of the group. Again, federation and partition. How are we supposed to have an up-to-date view of the group when using pure MLS if we are actually not even sure if our home server has the complete list of participants? What if someone in a separated part of the network committed a change to an MLS group and the federation could not or did not yet transfer it to my home server? This is something we cannot grant with Matrix. Matrix is a decentralized network. With Olm and Megolm, we have the ability that everyone like, yeah, I don't know, I know these 25 devices, so I will encrypt the message to these 25 devices, and hopefully it's supposed to be for 25 devices, and no one added another 5. This is not foreseen in MLS. The third, it's also roughly related to this. A group member has observed a proposal within an epoch must send a commit message before sending application data. Again, that leads to, if we are in a partitioned network, if we are in a separated state, if we are in a federation, if everyone always commits stuff, we immediately end up in the state that we have different views of the cryptographic membership of the groups, and do not have a central unified view of the memberships of a cryptographic group. And that's once again the same problem. We have an issue with federation and partition. Matrix is a decentralized network, and we cannot ensure that everyone has the same view on group membership. We cannot ensure that every device knows every other device belonging to a matrix chat. That's not possible with the current approach of matrix. So to sum it up, like, what are the key differences between matrix and MLS? Common view of the group. MLS expects everyone to have a common view of the group. Everyone, like, the idea of MLS is we define membership of a group by having like a common secret, like everyone who is able to send a message or receive a message in an MLS encrypted chat needs to know the entire group, because we have a common shared secret. We need to know the group context in order to be able to send and receive messages. In Olm, everyone tracks their own device list. Everyone checks whether participants of the group updated or registered a new device. In the sync response, we get information about removed sessions, about new logged in sessions. And in MLS, the group state needs to know all sessions, and we need to have a common shared secret in the group in order to be actually able to talk about a complete MLS group. In Matrix, we have membership of a room, like I can knock to a room, I can be invited to a room, but once again, the fact that I joined a room somewhere does not mean that everyone in the room, like maybe five from the 5 home servers we have, it might always be possible that the federation is slow and someone who's sending a message does not know my room membership yet, or knows the room membership but did not keep track of my device list. So we have cryptographic membership in MLS, whereas in Matrix we have like Matrix membership, we have room membership, we afterwards have power levels, we have state events. That's the next point. In Matrix, like, we have a bunch of state events and the server actually takes care of handling all the group state, and we trust the server very much into handling the group state and not fooling us about the group state. Whereas in MLS, we have the group context, we have the group state contained as a cryptographically deviated group state. Everyone can verify, like if you go through the past messages of an MLS group, you can verify that each group state is actually valid, and we don't have something like state events running around, which, yeah, it's a different philosophy. Also, that's not exactly relevant, but also interesting idea. Like in MLS, we have rotated key packages. So as a device, I rotate the key packages of my device, whereas in Matrix, you have the one-time keys used for Olm messages, for 2 device messages. Yeah, the other thing is MLS, by the idea of having a linear sequence of epochs, that means we have an append-only approach. It's not possible to have like an epoch and later we realize, oh, we lost an epoch. Let's place it in there. We lost an epoch, for example, because we have been in a network partition. MLS is an append-only protocol. So it is not expected that the network diverges, has different epochs and later joins them. From a pure MLS point of view, this is simply not foreseen. So basically, the entire issue is about partition and divergence. It's about branching and reunification. So you likely guessed, are we MLS yet? No, we are not. We are not. But there have been many attempts about MLS. There have been lots of thoughts put into MLS. MLS out there. A first attempt of MLS was the MSC 2883. It was called Matrix Flavored MLS, which was the first attempt to adopt MLS to Matrix in a way that we decentralize MLS. There was a dedicated like fork of MLS published, the MLS, but people from MLS, the IETF, did not really like the idea of changing MLS just because Matrix is federated. Second attempt, 1 year later, like this was in 2023. Second one was in 2024, if I correctly remember. MSC 4244, MLS for Matrix, was a slightly different approach. It introduced hub servers. Hub service is exactly what it is, or what it sounds like, not decentralized. So we actually have the spirit of we want decentralization, and we see federation and network partition as a feature. And the hub service introduced with the idea of MLS for Matrix, we're introducing hub servers taking care of like a unified linear sequence of epochs, which was opposing the spirit of what we expect in Matrix. So the first approach was rejected by the MLS people. Now we don't want to adopt just for Matrix. The second approach was rejected by Matrix because now we don't want centralization. The third approach was the MLS mode for Matrix, MSC 4256. That's also what's currently being still worked on. It is, for example, used by, and I can already present Nico, who's sitting there, who's going to give the next talk. That's basically what the BWI, the German Bundesmessenger team from the German armed forces, are aiming for, to have MLS in a decentralized or a bit more decentralized approach than the previous hub servers. It basically defines a hierarchy of different of different servers, but in case of outages, like there's a defined hierarchy which is later used to simplify reunification. So to wrap up this entire topic about MLS on matrix, so what is the solution? I don't have a simple solution, but the solution is definitely one thing. It's decentralize. We need to keep matrix decentralized. That's the key selling point of matrix. We have dozens of different networks. We can have huge outages and cryptographic, like encryption. Yeah, okay, after an outage, you may have unable to decrypt. But in general, encryption is resilient against outages. It is resilient against separation. It is resilient against network partition. And that's a key selling point of matrix. And in order to have MLS as a future encryption standard for matrix, we need to adopt MLS in order to be more decentral. We need to get rid of the idea of having an absolutely linear sequence. We need to accept that at some points in history of a MLS group, we can't ensure that we have a linear sequence. We may have breaks of, we may have forks of the room state, and we need to rejoin them. And that's something we need to get into MLS. That's something we need to tackle with the community. That's something we need to tackle together with the IETF. That's something we need to tackle together as industries working on encryption, as industries working on matrix, and as the entire community. That's basically the end of my talk. That's basically the lesson I would like to share to you. We need to keep MLS, or we need to make MLS something decentralized. I hope you could actually understand how MLS works in detail and maybe understood the differences to Olm. I hope it was not too technical for those who were actually like only interested into the challenges in MLS. And yeah, if you would like to get in touch, I'm doing matrix for work. I'm also doing like software architecture and matrix for work. You can send me emails or you can contact me by mail. And if you have any questions, there's a fancy website called arewemlsyet.com, which is barely never updated because like no one really cares about that website. It has lots of broken links, but I still wanted to link it here. And yeah, the next talk will be Niku, part 2 of MLS, who will be talking about fast food and MLS or something like that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Braid. Do we have any question in the room? Yes, please.
Yes, but how are we doing this? So, okay, my question is, if your answer is we need a decentralized MLS, then the question is still open. How are we going to do this? So I wonder, how is this MRC 2883 proposing to do it? How do you bring this two paradox requirements together?
Well, that's a good question. And I feel like minds are split about these questions. About this question, the idea is to, what is currently being worked on is to have like a priority list of home servers and simply accept and say, okay, MLS wants a linear sequence, but we don't care. We accept that we like may have forks and later rejoin them. So the idea is to work on decentralization on MLS level and to simply get rid of the, which was it? The requirement here. We need to get rid of a single linear sequence of epoch. That does not work with matrix. So the solution and how we're going to do this is accepting that we won't have a single linear sequence of epochs, but allowing forks and implementing solutions to rejoin these forks into a common state after rejoining the network. That will require changes in, like, if we want to be compatible with upstream MLS, that means we need changes in the upstream MLS working draft, because that's contradicting the working draft of MLS. But that's going to be a long roadmap, but that's the way to go.
Thank Thank you. Sorry, I will pass it to the next one, and then we can come back if we have some time. Sorry.
Hello. Good talk, by the way. I was just wondering, is the plan for MLS to replace Megolm and Olm, or is it to be like a separate mode for people who want MLS for whatever reason? What's the goal here? I'm just trying to find out.
That's a good question. And a good question is characterized by not having an answer. People have different ideas. I'm personally, my personal opinion is, in future, I would like to get rid of Olm and Megolm, bold statement. Blame me for this, because of the entire issue with tracking group memberships, and MLS is cryptographically more secure and it's more fancy. But what I do not want is that we fork MLS and do something MLS-ish, but at the end are not compliant. So in my opinion, the way to go is to showcase how we can do MLS in a decentralized scenario. Once we showcase this, evaluated it, and implemented it, go to the IETF, talk with the MLS working group, get the changes we need discussed there, and once MLS is actually fulfilling our requirements, once this is done, then we can say, okay, let's put efforts into actually switching this ecosystem of Matrix to MLS. And up to that point, MLS will be an experimental idea of people into cryptography. It's not that Olm and Megolm are insecure, but in terms of interoperability, on the long term, it's a good idea to have one single encryption standard, one single standardized encryption standard, which is interoperable with any other platforms. And that's also a policy question. Like we have the Digital Markets Act here in Europe, where we are required to talk to gatekeepers, or we want to talk to gatekeepers. And that's why on long term, we will be doing MLS as Matrix, I guess. But on short term, it's rather ground research.
Thank you. Is there any other question? Okay, then please give another warm applause to Braid.